In today's reading from Samuel, a woman named Hannah gives voice to what so many of us do when she says to Eli the priest, "I was only pouring out my troubles to the Lord." Hannah's words reminded me of a TV hospital drama called The Resident. And there's a scene in it where one of the patients is shown in the chapel in the hospital, silently praying to God, when one of her friends, who is a doctor, comes in to talk, to comfort her. But she is uncomfortable. The doctor friend is uncomfortable with her friend's faith and cannot relate to it. In our first reading, what prompted Hannah's response was the priest Eli misreading her. What he saw was a woman, obviously distressed, sitting in a temple, moving her lips with no audible sound coming forth. I would imagine that we've probably each seen or been that person with a similar appearance at the end of our rope, whether on a train, in a coffee shop, in a hospital cafeteria. Because Eli thought she was drunk, Hannah went on to explain that her unhappiness, her deep sorrow, brought her to the temple, where she went to plead with God in prayer. And sensing her sincerity, Eli tells her to go in peace. And then he adds his own prayer to hers, saying, "And may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him." And we know that when Hannah returns home, she no longer looks downcast. And we are told the Lord remembered her. And she bore a son named Samuel, since she had asked the Lord for him. My brothers and sisters, what we hear in this story of human struggle is the very reminder of who has the ultimate authority over all of heaven and earth. Most likely, Hannah had consulted the local experts with her troubles, but without success. She, like many of us, turned to God, hoping that he would hear and answer her prayers. In that TV drama, the one that I mentioned, the patient also sought the help of the medical experts. But the seriousness of the case and her witness of faith would ultimately lead her doctor friend later in that day to return to the chapel, but this time alone, seeking God's help by praying for her friend and seeking understanding. But to have that hope, we need to believe. We need to believe, as we have heard in the gospel, that Jesus is Lord, that he is real, that he is truly the Holy One of God. You know, when we're dealing with work or household things, like working on a project or doing a home repair, there's always the need to get the approval of the one person who is in authority, to get them to say yes. Hannah reached the point where she knew that God was the one, just like the people in the synagogue realized as they witnessed Jesus teaching with authority, and they were astonished and they were amazed. So how about us? How about our family members? Do we see God as the Holy One that we can turn to, both in the ordinary and the extraordinary moments in life? Hannah's example of her faith in her time of need, as well as that character in the TV show. But more importantly, the countless examples of our own lives remind us of the power of believing in the God that cares for us, that he really does hear our prayers if only we'll believe and ask. May God bless you and your families this holy day as we come to the Lord, believing and asking.